Welcome everyone, I'm Grawshellar, and today I have a deck list for the Whitebeard deck from OP03, so let's go see. Alright, so many people already know how this card works. This is an OP02 card leader, Edward Newgate, has 6k power, 6 lives. Just at the end of your turn, you lose one of your lives, you take it to your hand. This is one of the best decks in the format alongside Zorro, I would say. This is like one of the top 3 decks, undoubtedly. So yeah, a lot of cards are gonna synergize well with this card. We will be seeing those later. In OP03 you have a few additions to this deck, not many, but they make this deck really strong. So let's go see them. Okay, so we have 4 copies of Otama. This is an OP01 card. It's really good. It's a 2k counter. You can play it if you need to give an opponent's character like minus 2k if needed, but otherwise it's a 2k counter. You're gonna have other cards that can lower the opponent's combat power, so you might still not waste this and keep them as a 2k counter, because you are gonna be really needing those to defend. Like, you're gonna be losing lives really fast, so you need to defend with a lot of counters. Okay, we have 4 copies of Atmos. This is a vanilla 4-drop, 6k power, it has counter. Like, you're gonna be seeing a lot of vanillas on this deck just because they work well. Like, lower costs are super easy to pop, but these ones are gonna be giving a lot of pressure to the opponent. Then those are Whitebeard pirates, so they synergize because you can look for them. Like, you are gonna be able to trash them to revive your blocker Marcos. Really good ones, really solid. If you have literally nothing else to play, you can play those vanillas. Those are gonna be staying on the field for quite a bit because they're gonna be hard to kill because they're high in combat power, so they're really nice. Okay, 4 copies of Edward Newgate super rare. That's absolutely necessary for this deck because whenever you can, you have to play this card, right? So this card makes that you don't take your life that turn. It's a 9-drop, 10k. On play, you have 2k more power for your leader on the turn that you played and in the opponent's next turn. So defending, you are gonna defend with 8k, which makes your leader really more difficult to hit. That's why this deck works so well, because you really have a lot of counters and then you're gonna be able to defend yourself just with the cards of your hand super easily. So yeah, you can also give it 2 dons, and when attacking it's gonna KO 3k or less. That's not gonna happen a lot of times, but it's really nice to get rid of small blockers that can be killed or stuff like that. You can probably use an Otama or some other cards to lower the cost, not the cost, to lower the attack power of a card just to pop it with Whitebeard's attack and then giving a lot of pressure to the opponent, so that's also really nice. Okay, we have 2 copies of Kingdew, another vanilla. This time it's a 5 cost, 7k. This card is really nice. You just put it on the field. Next turn you're gonna be hitting it with 7k. So it's really nice. You don't really need to give any dons to really give pressure to your opponent. Okay, 2 copies of Thatch. This card is also really good because it's so difficult to kill. It's a 6 cost, 8k. So it's gonna be difficult for the opponent to kill this card, so you're gonna be having it on the field unless the opponent wastes a lot of resources trying to kill this card, like in black decks or something. They're gonna be needing to lower the cost of this card and using a lot of cards to kill it, right? So it's a nice 6-drop that's just gonna be super strong. It's just a big vanilla. Okay, 4 copies of Yosu. This is a 2k counter that sometimes you can play, because if you give it 1 don and you have 2 or less life cards, then this card gains rush. Now you are gonna be having less than 2 life cards like a lot of times with this deck because you're constantly gonna be losing lives, right? So this is for 5 dons, a 5k rush. If you really need that extra attacker to come onto the field, you can play this card, right? So this is kind of like the final strike, or if you really need to get rid of something from the field to be able to defend next turn, you can probably use this card, but otherwise I would use this next card for those purposes. Those are Porgas the Ace Super Rare. This is the 7 cost 7k attack power. Then on play you're gonna give minus 3k to 2 opponent's characters, right? And then it has Rush. So for the same amount of dons, it's gonna have the same attack power as a Rush Yosu, but this also gives minus 3k to 2 cards. So if you're really trying to kill 2 cards from the opponent's field, this card is perfect, because you're gonna be lowering their combat power, so they're gonna be really more easily to kill in battle, and then you have an extra 7k attacker with Rush, right? So this one is really good for that purpose. You can also have it as a final attacker, like an extra attack because it has Rush, right? But otherwise, to control the table a little bit, because you need to reduce the attackers the opponent has, or you're gonna be receiving a lot of pressure. Even if you have a high combat power leader that's more difficult to hit, the opponent is gonna be trying to hit you non-stop to reduce the resources of your hand and then killing you, because you're not gonna have a lot of blockers, and then you are not gonna have a lot of lives. So you really need to protect yourself by controlling the field a little bit, like having less attacks from your opponent is the ideal. Okay, we have 4 copies of Makino. Another really solid card. It's a 2k counter. I use it sometimes alongside Iso, because you, for 1 don, you can just turn a Searcher into another attack that the opponent is not really prepared for. And that's really strong, because you can easily win with that. You can win with just these cards. Like, imagine having 2 of these, having used all your attacks, and then you have 1 Searcher on your field that's 2k power, and then you play 2 of these, and you are giving it 6k, so it's gonna attack for 8k for 2 dons. The opponent is not gonna expect that. Like, that's a really strong attack. So otherwise, 2k counter as always, but if you have an ISO on the field, I would try to use this as the last 2k counter on your hand, because that's a really solid attack that you can perform. Okay, Marco blocker 4 cost 5k combat power. This blocker is just one of the best cards, if not, I would say it's the best red card that exists, just because it's so annoying, even more on these decks that have so many Whitebeard Pirates cards, because you're gonna be able to revive it if you have 2 or less life cards, which in this deck, like, you're gonna be in that position all the time. But you're gonna be able to revive it just by throwing to the trash one of your Whitebeard Pirates card. So it doesn't need to be a character. Whichever card that you have that has Whitebeard Pirates on it, you just discard that, and then you revive this blocker rested. So it's a blocker that's super difficult to kill. The only way to deal with this card for real is if they are gonna go for the kill, they get rid of the card with some effect, and then you lose a blocker. That's why you have to be careful with this deck. And yeah, you cannot block it. If you cannot block it because they rest this card, or they destroy it with something else than an attack, then that attack is gonna go through because you cannot defend with this, or they may like put it in your hand again, or at the bottom of your deck, top of your lives. There's so many mechanics that can really disrupt this, but if they don't have that, this card is so annoying to deal with because it's so difficult to kill. Okay, we have 4 copies of the new ISO Searcher, 1 cost, 2k combat power. You look at the top 5 cards from your deck, you reveal 1 card that's Whitebeard's type, other than ISO, obviously, and then you put it on your hand, the rest bottom of your deck, like any other Searcher, typical. So that's why this card is so good. It's a Searcher that you're gonna play it like 100% of the time, because it's an extra card, and if you had that on the field, Makino can work really well, as I've said, because with 2 Makinos you can easily win a game. Like, with an extra attack that the opponent is not expecting for you to use 2 dons to attack for with an 8k, having a 2k on the field, right? So that's also a really solid combo. So if you have those two cards like Iso and Makino, like mid-late game. Try to not attack with the Iso. If they don't kill the Iso with anything, like try to not give it dons to attack. Just leave it on the field, and if you have the Makinos at the end of the game, you can just pretty easily win with that, or at least have a solid super high attack that they are not expecting and they have to waste a lot of resources to get rid of that. Okay, we have the new 5 cost Marco. That's the super rare, 6k power. It also has 1000 counter, which is good, and in your turn you play this card, you KO a 3k or less card, which is amazing to control the field, because you can combo this with some other cards to get rid of some cards of your opponent, so you're gonna have an advantage of table. Like, that's what you really need with Whitebeard, not leaving the opponent far too many cards on the field. Like, you can leave some and just start giving pressure, but if the opponent doesn't attack you with characters and just keep building like a solid table and they're defending really well against your attacks, you're gonna be in a really pretty dangerous position. You really need to try to kill some of the characters, because if they attack you too much, you're not gonna be able to defend. You have some defenses, but being able to pop cards is really nice on this deck, and we will be saying later, because you can probably use Otama, right, to get rid of a 5k or a 7k if you use 2, but I feel like that's wasting 2 counters to have that, so that's kinda tough. Like, I've played this deck quite a bit, and having to rely on Otamas to do that, it's kinda harsh. Otherwise you are not gonna kill far too many things, like maybe a small blocker, but black has the Fukuros that cannot be killed with effects, so this card is not that good unless you can reduce the attack power of some cards, then this becomes godly. But the only good thing about this card, and the best thing about this card obviously, is that on KO you trash one event from your hand and then you play it rested. So same as the blocker, as the Marco blocker, you need to discard an event, not any card, but you revive it rested, so it's a lot of pressure for the opponent. Like, you have 2 cards that are almost immortal, they're gonna be on the field, they have to attack them so many times, you just sacrifice one event that you're probably not gonna be using, and then you can revive this, so it's really solid. But again, as I said, with the combination of some of the cards, this card becomes the more deadly card on the deck, easily. Okay, we have 4 Radical Beams. I think this is a staple. You really need those because you're gonna be low on lives constantly. Like, you're gonna be losing 1 life each turn, and maybe even more if the opponent keeps pressuring you far too much and you feel like it's not worth it to try to defend some attacks, right? So being able to defend 4k for 1 don is absolutely necessary. This card, an absolute staple to this deck. You're never gonna use the trigger though. I think you're never gonna use that. Okay, Whitebeard Pirates, this is the other searcher. You can look up for a character, not any card. Like, you cannot take events with this, but you can take any Whitebeard character with this card. You can also throw this if you're not gonna be looking for anything else to revive 1 Marco Super Rare, so that's a solid card to have, so 4 copies of that. Okay, Crossfire, I've added this card recently just because I felt like I lacked a little bit of control on the table, right, in the middle late game. Because having 7 dons and being able to play this and the 5-drop Marco, it's super good. Like, for 2 dons, you can use it as a main and as a counter to defend, right, to lower the attack of 1 card if you want, but you're mainly gonna use it as the main effect. Okay, the trigger also gives like the counter effect, but you're gonna try to use the main just for reduce the attack power of some card by 4k, and maybe try to kill it with your other cards like battling. If not, you're gonna pop it with Marco by 5 cost and 2 cost, that's 7 cost total. You're gonna pop a 7k cost card, which is huge for this deck. Being able to get rid of a high attacker on the field with just this, it's really good, because as I said, you need to try to reduce the pressure that the opponent can give you, right? Like, you can get rid of 7k blockers or just certain K cards that are gonna constantly be attacking you, right, and draining your resources, it's even better if you don't really need to battle them and you just kill them with this combo, and then you have more advantage of the field because you're gonna have an extra attacker, right, which is Marco super rare. So that's the best possible combo, and if not, you can just use this and maybe even an ace super rare, right, and you are giving one card minus 7k. You have a rush character, another card with a minus 3k, so you're gonna be like battling the opponent cards and they're gonna have like nothing to defend, right? So you're probably gonna kill those cards pretty easily. That's why I feel like at the very least 2 cards of this on this deck is necessary. Also, it's a Whitebeard Pirates card, so it can be searched, and I feel like 2 copies is alright. You can put more if you want, but you're gonna have to reduce some of your other cards. Maybe you can throw 1 or 2 Kindeus and then put more of these. This is a really good card for sure. For any Whitebeard leader, this is a solid card. But yeah, 2 copies is alright. You can also discard this to revive a Marco, so it's more events, which is not bad. Okay, so you have, to end it off, 2 guard points. Really solid card. For 1 cost, you defend for 3k. So again, a really solid event because you're gonna be trying to defend with events and 2k counters on your hand, because sometimes you're not gonna be able to block because your only blockers are gonna be Marcos and the opponent is gonna try to kill those other ways, right? So that you don't block. So being able to use events is really necessary for this deck. So try to leave 1 or 2 dons open for defense if you really need it, because you are gonna be low on lives really fast. But if you use this deck wisely, it's gonna be one of the best ones. So yeah, that was everything, people. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this deck list. If you wanna see any other deck lists in the future, let me know in the comment section. Otherwise, I will be releasing deck lists that I feel that they are interesting or that they are strong in their current meta. But if you really need or want to see a deck list, right, that you enjoy and that it's interesting, let me know. I will search for it and I may be doing it. So yeah, anyways, thank you for watching again. Subscribe to the channel if you like the content. Click one of the videos that you are probably seeing here in the screen, and I'll be seeing you guys next video.